There is a specific, terrifying moment that happens to almost everyone in their career, usually around the time they get their first big promotion or jump to a new company with a shiny new salary. You sign the offer letter, you see that extra $10,000 or $20,000 a year, and you feel a wave of relief thinking, finally, I can breathe. But then, 6 months later, you look at your bank account, and the number is exactly the same as it was when you were making significantly less. In fact, you might even feel more stressed, more stretched, and more broke than you did when you were an intern. This isn't an accident, and it isn't just inflation. It is a mathematical trap designed to keep the middle class running on a hamster wheel of high-earning poverty. Today, we are going to dismantle the lifestyle creep phenomenon, break down the brutal math of why a $10,000 raise actually equals $0 in your pocket, and use a mental model called Inversion Thinking to show you how the wealthy do the exact opposite to build freedom while everyone else builds debt. My name is Zara, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible forces that keep high-income women living paycheck to paycheck. If you're someone who keeps climbing the career ladder but feels like the rungs are breaking underneath you, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we are going to stop celebrating raises and start calculating the cost of your lifestyle. Here is the thing that the HR department and the glossy magazines never explain to you. A raise is not a windfall. It is a test, and most people fail it immediately because they do not understand the math of the middle-class squeeze. Let's look at the raw numbers because the math is honestly shocking when you strip away the emotion. Let's say you are a hardworking professional and you land a $10,000 raise. In your mind, that sounds like a life-changing amount of money. You mentally allocate that $10,000 to vacations, a nicer apartment, or a new wardrobe. But here is the reality that $10,000 is a gross number, not a net number. By the time you factor in federal income tax, which likely pushes you into a marginal bracket of 22% or 24%, state income taxes, FICA taxes, Social Security and Medicare, and perhaps an automatic increase in your 401k contribution percentage, that $10,000 is immediately slashed by about 30% to 40%. So your $10,000 is actually roughly $6,500 in take-home pay. Divide that by 12 months, and you are looking at an extra $540 to $600 a month. Now pay close attention to that number. $600. Does that number sound familiar? It should, because it is almost exactly the average monthly payment for a new car lease or the difference in rent between a standard apartment and a luxury apartment with a doorman and a gym you'll never use. The economy is structured to absorb your raise with surgical precision. The moment that direct deposit hits, financial Parkinson's law kicks in, which states that expenses will always rise to match income unless a conscious force is applied to stop them. But it's not just about the numbers, it's about the psychological driver called status signaling. When you get that promotion, you feel an internal pressure to look the part. You convince yourself that a manager or a director shouldn't drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. You tell yourself that you deserve the upgrade because you worked hard. This is the reward psychology that advertisers have weaponized against women specifically. We are told that our consumption is the trophy for our labor. So, you commit that new $600 a month to a car payment. Now, you are back to exactly zero margin. But it gets worse. That car requires premium gas, higher insurance premiums, and more expensive maintenance. Suddenly, that $600 raise is costing you $800 a month in lifestyle upgrades. You are now technically $200 poorer per month after getting a $10,000 raise. This is the golden handcuffs effect. You have increased your fixed costs to match your new income, which means you can never lose that job, you can never take a risk, and you can never take a sabbatical because your lifestyle is holding your paycheck hostage. We also have to talk about the Diderot Effect, named after the philosopher Denis Diderot, who bought a beautiful new scarlet robe, only to realize that his old furniture looked terrible next to it. So he replaced the rug, then the chair, then the paintings, until he was entirely in debt, all because of one robe. This happens to us every day. You buy the nice dress for the presentation, but then you need the nice shoes to match, and the blowout to match the outfit, and the Uber Black to get to the venue because you don't want to ruin the look on the subway. The consumption spirals. The tragedy of lifestyle creep is that it is a hedonic treadmill. You think the upgrade will make you happy, and it does, for about 2 weeks. Then your brain adapts. The leather seats just feel like seats. The view from the luxury apartment just becomes the background. You return to your baseline level of happiness, but your baseline level of spending is permanently higher. You have purchased a permanent liability for a temporary dopamine hit. This is why you see people making $250,000 a year who are drowning in credit card debt. They aren't bad at math, they are victims of a social engineering experiment that equates spending with success. They are running a race where the finish line moves every time they take a step. They are feeding the beast of more, not realizing that more has an insatiable appetite. The system depends on you spending that raise. If everyone saved their raise, the consumer economy would collapse. So you are fighting against the entire marketing machinery of the 21st century every time you try to keep that $600 in your pocket. But if you don't fight it, you will wake up at 50 years old with a lot of nice stuff, a lot of stress, and absolutely no freedom. So how do we break this cycle? We have to use a mental model popularized by Charlie Munger called Inversion Thinking. Instead of asking, how do I become wealthy, we ask, what would I do if I wanted to guarantee that I stay broke forever? If I wanted to ensure poverty, I would spend every single dollar I earn. I would upgrade my car every 3 years. I would move into a bigger house every time I got a bonus. I would finance vacations on credit cards because I work hard and I deserve it. Once you identify the roadmap to poverty, you simply do the opposite. This leads us to the concept of the gap. Wealth is not your income. Wealth is the gap between your income and your expenses. The only way to get rich is to widen the gap. Most people try to widen the gap by earning more. But as we just saw, if your lifestyle creeps up with your income, the gap stays closed. The Zara Invests strategy is to treat your lifestyle like a fixed variable, not a dynamic one. This is called the cap strategy. You decide arbitrarily that you are going to live on the salary you made 2 years ago. If you made $60,000 in 2022 and you make $80,000 now, you continue to live exactly as if you make $60,000. You keep the old car, you stay in the smaller apartment, you cook at home. What happens to that extra $20,000? That is your freedom fund. That money doesn't exist for spending. It exists for buying your time back. Let's run the math on investing the raise instead of spending it. If you take that $600 a month, the money you would have spent on a car payment, and you invest it in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund, earning an average of 8% historically adjusted, do you know what happens? In 10 years, you don't just have a used car worth $5,000, you have $109,000 in liquid cash. In 20 years, you have $350,000. That is the cost of the car. The car didn't cost you $600 a month, it cost you $250,000 in future wealth. This is what wealthy people understand that the middle class ignores. Opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend on a status signal is a soldier you have killed before it could go into battle for you. The wealthy practice stealth wealth. They understand that status is a zero-sum game. If you win the status game by having the nicest house on the block, you usually lose the wealth game because you have tied up all your capital in illiquid, high-maintenance assets. The goal is to be invisible rich. You want to be the woman walking down the street in a generic t-shirt who could buy the entire block if she wanted to, not the woman in the designer logo who is terrified of her credit card bill. This requires a massive ego death. You have to be okay with people thinking you are less successful than you are. You have to be okay with driving a beater when your peers are driving Teslas. You have to realize that their Tesla is likely owned by the bank, and your freedom is owned by you. When you invert the desire to impress others, you unlock the ability to impress yourself. Imagine the power of knowing that if you lost your job tomorrow, you would be fine for 5 years because you saved your raises. That is real power. That is real feminism, financial autonomy that is completely independent of an employer or a partner. The trick is to automate this poverty. When you get a raise, immediately set up an automatic transfer for the entire net amount of the raise to go directly into your brokerage account on payday. Don't let it hit your checking account. If you see it, you will spend it. If it disappears into your freedom fund instantly, you will learn to live without it, just like you lived without it before the promotion. You have to trick your own brain. You have to treat your future freedom as a bill that must be paid before your current lifestyle. This is how you escape the trap. You refuse to play the game of keeping up. You realize that the only person you are competing with is your past self. And if your past self was stressed about money and your future self is financially free, then you have won the only game that matters. I want you to take a serious look at your last raise. Where did it go? Did it buy you freedom? Or did it buy you a subscription to a more expensive life? The next time your income jumps, I challenge you to freeze your lifestyle. Keep the gap wide. Comment, "I will keep the gap" if you are ready to stop inflating your life and start inflating your net worth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.